Morning and welcome. My name is Bryson Bort, and I am a co-founder of the ICS Village with Tom Van Norman right here. And welcome to the 9th in the series of Critical Effect. For those of you who are questioning how I came up with the number 9, because we still have this question and problem, this is the new Hack the Capitol. So the 7 years of Hack the Capitol that you knew was rebranded last year as Critical Effect. So that is why this conference has been going on for 9 years. And it is a testament to all of you, our sponsors in the community, that have allowed us to keep this going. I'd like to start off with a thank you to our host, Akin. I'm not going to pronounce all of the last names in the law firm. I think there's like 17 of them, but they have a lovely facility that we are benefiting from. So thank you to them and their partner, Evan Wolf, for making that happen. I would also like to thank the Institute for Security and Technology, which also includes the Undestructible 27 project. I suppose I should explain my co-host here. Critical Effect is Josh Corman, who is the lead for the Undestructible 27 project. He's going to be saying some words after me, but we're going to get through some logistics and then I will kick some things off. So I also want to give a shout out to the staff that made this all happen. Stephanie, Sophia, Nick, all of our sponsors. You may have noticed, and I made it very explicit this year, that you are pretty much paying for the food. So the sponsors are the one that make this happen. So really, I know it's always a challenge with looking at the logos and going, what's the deal? They are the ones who make this happen. That is a commitment that goes above and beyond. And so I really want to give a shout out to James Regan. James? There he is. So James Regan from Clutch flew all the way from California to make this happen and is a platinum sponsor. So really huge. James is also on the hook because this year we're debuting a new Critical Effect in September called Critical Effect California. It's explicitly going to be taking place in Sacramento, not Silicon Valley, because we are focusing on the government level of these questions. And as all of you may have noticed, we have been shifting from the federal down to the state level with these responsibilities. So I think there is not a more timely moment to capture and discuss those challenges. And James and Clutch are going to be helping lead that with Dr. Katrina Rossini, middle of September in Sacramento. All right, so some logistics. Track 1 and track 2, you're actually in both right now. This wall is going to come down after the acting director of CISA, Nick, speaks for the keynote. And this is going to be track 1. This will be track 2. You will have time. This isn't going to be an Indiana Jones thing where you need to slide under the wall to get to the other track. Fear not. Also, there is the elevators that take you up to the 14th floor. Track 3 is in a gorgeous classroom style location. It's so pretty, it's almost difficult to be paying attention to all the wonderful content because of the beautiful views of Washington, D.C. up there. Please always keep in mind if there are any incidents or anything, report them to the staff. And if there is anything where we need to evacuate the building, to pay attention to where the exits are and your safety. In addition, we also have some other folks who are providing some additional services, starting with Corsha has a table out here. The best way I can describe it is it's kind of a cross between Railroad Tycoon and being an asset owner. So they have a fun game and you get to take away the game. So if for those of you who are looking for being cool at home, bringing an OT game home to your kids is how your best chance you got. All right, I see most of you. We're doing you favors. Also, Kirsten Renner is going to be doing a resume review. It is never a bad time to be paying attention to how to update your resume and learning more about the job market. And then finally, our mad scientist of the conference is Dean Ford. So if you got a chance to see it, we have a bunch of blinking lights and wires, so you know something cool is happening in industrial control systems. It being an industrial control system, it also doesn't always work. So he's troubleshooting that right now. But you will have an opportunity to catch him speaking as well as to see some details for those of you who always wondered about how a programmable logic controller works and some of the intricacies of water pumps and supplies and regulators. And with that, I think I'm concluding with logistics real quick. Does anyone have any questions? Is there anything I didn't cover to help keep you alive, safe, And the coffee's there to keep you attentive. The rest is on you. Great. All right. So why this conference and why the ICS Village? Tom and I created the 501c3 nonprofit ICS Village, Industrial Control System Village, growing out of the hacker ethos. The ICS Village has essentially been what I call a hacker project out of DEF CON that we introduced folks through games into industrial control systems. But we saw a bigger opportunity. How could we formalize this to really bring the question of the fact that most people don't realize they're in an industrial control system environment? You're in one right now. Where do you think your electricity comes from? The water, the building automation systems, the pressure systems, the interconnect for the power. And this conference came from, we travel all over the world, starting with, what is a programmable logic controller? And most people go, Stuxnet. Good, it's a good start, it's a good start. But what does that mean? And we thought, why don't we bring a conference to Washington, D.C., where theoretically there are people here who have some kind of power to change the world? That was not meant to be a joke. We should all believe in our government. The US government has the power to try to do something about this. It isn't each of us in our own organizations. It is a whole of society question, and the government should play a prominent role in doing that. So what is so interesting to me about this space is we get mired in the technical questions. How do we secure the perimeter? How do I ensure remote access? How do I handle the Anthropic artificial intelligence marketing FUD for vulnerabilities? Greatest marketing campaign of all time. When the questions aren't just technical, the problem isn't just technical. What's so interesting to me about this space is I don't know any other profession that has to wake up each day and wonder, what did another country's military do to me? That's our jobs. You're not facing the proverbial kids hacking MGM through their help desk. You're facing foreign states, military and intelligence organizations, sometimes in coordination with organized crime, trying to undermine the very fabric of our society and the trust in what we do. I don't know any other profession that faces that. That's not a technical question. That is one that we need to approach combined as a society to do it. It is one that takes education and storytelling. It's one that takes more than being fucking nerds. We have to meet them where they are. So who heard just a few days ago that the California water system was hacked by Iran? A handful of hands go up. And this is the people in the know. A water system that affects 2 million citizens, barely reported in the news. The only article I ever saw on it was about a week after it happened. Sorry, a journalist walks in just as I say that. Where is, so, blue screen. Blue screen of death. There we go. Okay. So that's kind of the challenge, right? Folks have struggled to care. One of my favorite things that we do at this conference is we have a press panel. And the reason we created the press panel is because that's where the challenges are as well. It isn't just a government. It isn't just us at our organizations figuring out how to technically secure things. We need the storytellers to engage and change our democracy, to change what we prioritize, to change what our citizens can do as a part of this. And so that's why I like the press panel, because their perspectives, their understanding, their relationships with you in the field and having a part of that is going to be what changes this conversation. And so actually one of the analysts who broke the Handala attack on the California water system is here. His name is Joe Slowick. I don't see him in the room, but he is speaking in track 3 later today. So I highly encourage you to check that out. And then finally, the last thing. So I'm a former Army officer. I worked in the intelligence community. And I remember helping stand up US Cyber Command and Army Cyber. And they were so excited. I remember when the 06s called me and they were like, we got it. The cyber branch is going to be a thing. And it's a combat arms branch. And they were excited about that. Well, I used to be an armor officer. I was a combat arms officer. And let me tell you, it's the same thing with the way asset owners look at this. If you aren't one of us, we don't like you pretending to be one of us. You don't understand, right? The IT perspective of confidentiality, integrity, and availability is not our priority. Our priority is safety first and availability. And availability leads to life, because that availability is the water and electricity that makes everything else work. The hospitals, and there has been absolutely negative things happening. And so when I look at what we need to do and what I challenge each of you, besides building relationships, which is with some of the best people in the world who are here right now, it's going out and figuring out how do we meet those that need help where they are, because they're not here. The have-nots don't have the time to be here. They can't afford to be here. We are a privileged group. We need to go and meet them where they are, help them where they are, and speak their language where they are to help them.
All right. Welcome. First thing, Josh Corman, many hats. One is the reason we became collaborators is almost 13 years ago, I realized the cavalry isn't coming to save us where bits and bytes meet flesh and blood. So I challenged the hacker culture to say, what are we willing and able to do? Can we be a voice of reason, a helping hand? Can we lead with empathy? Can we meet people where they are? The general problem statement I gave them is our dependence on connected technology is growing much faster than our ability to secure it in areas affecting public safety, economic, and national security. Over time, when we talk to policymakers, as we build trust, it became a little different. It's that we are over-dependent on undependable things. And through that overdependence, it exposes us to accidents like the CrowdStrike outage or adversaries that want money. But now it's shifting from people who want to steal things to people who want to disrupt or destroy things. It's now a tool of hybrid conflict or terrorist activity. And this isn't a science fiction movie. This isn't a blockbuster movie plot. This is real. It's happening right now. And unfortunately, 13 years later, I can still say the cavalry isn't coming. We have partnerships. We've invested in public-private. We've invested in government agencies. Some of them are here today. We're not up to our full fighting strength to where we need to be. Not yet. So my first sentiment is I want to thank you because you're the ones that showed up. You're the ones speaking, bringing bold ideas, pragmatic, actionable ideas for the target-rich cyber poor, which is the overwhelming majority of who runs this country. There's 151,000 water facilities. There's 420 of them in the voluntary ISAC. How you like those numbers? No one is coming to protect the water you drink, the food you put on your table, the oil and gas that supplies the economy for the Eastern Seaboard, the schools your children attend, municipalities who run towns and cities. It's you. I wish there were more of us, but we can be a catalyst and a stimulus. We're doing something better. So some of you know our Undestructible project. I'm currently, in year 1.5 of a 3-year journey to try to make sure that if our adversaries throw a punch at our civilian infrastructure, we can take that punch. That if they throw their worst at us, it's not going to be that bad. So I'm going to give a tiny thumbnail to set the tone for the rest of the day, and then show that even our Undestructible project has been disrupted since I was here 1 year ago with you. So there have been some disruptions to Undestructible. All right, here we go. So this project, I think I took a screenshot 2 days ago. So I think we're at 197 days till it's 2027. We're going to talk about that date and timing briefly and throughout the next 2 days. Xi Jinping has told his military to be ready to take Taiwan as early as 2027. They'd like the US to stay out of their fight. And as part of their unconventional warfare doctrine, unrestricted warfare doctrine, Volt Typhoon is an outrageous aggression on non-combatant civilian infrastructure. They have two objectives. One is to delay and degrade the movement of forced mobilization and troops to the warfighting theater in Taiwan to keep us out of their fight. Even a day or two is enough. But the one that makes me really pissed off it should piss you off as well, is to target non-combatant civilian infrastructure like water in towns with no military or manufacturing presence. Why? That's the point. The point is to undermine public support for our intervention in their conflict. The fact that they're using us as leverage should make you pissed off. If you have a family, you should be pissed off. The fact that it's so easy for them to do this should make you pissed off. And I want you to channel that. I woke up with a fire in my belly, trying to make sure that the people who showed up today to speak, to hear, to identify and act on practical, actionable ideas, we might start to turn the tide. So one of the slogans that comes out of this, because we have to meet people where they are and use their love language, is no water, no hospital, no kidding. A hospital cannot function within 2 to 4 hours of a loss of water pressure. And unfortunately, our adversaries can affect that outcome. I'm going to try to play a 3-minute video. I think I'm on time, because I want us to have a common denominator. You can watch this stuff later if you like, but soak this in. You're not going to agree with it all, but soak this in for a second.
Would you feel comfortable with a stranger having direct access to your home at will, even if they didn't steal or damage anything yet? Probably not. What if we told you that the Chinese government has similar access to U.S. civilian critical services, such as water and power? Through an ongoing hacking campaign, the Chinese army has achieved just that. Why would they do this? The Chinese Communist Party has declared intentions to seize Taiwan as early as 2027. China would like the U.S. to stay out of this conflict, and cyber attacks on infrastructure could delay military response and cause chaos in U.S. society. Our infrastructure currently lacks the resilience to take a punch. Take water, for example. The nation has approximately 151,000 water systems. About a third of those are community water systems serving the population. And our project is prioritizing reliable water pressure for the nation's approximately 6,000 hospitals. The vast majority are under-resourced, carry no mandatory cyber resilience regulations, and only 1 in 250 participate in formal sector cybersecurity programs, leaving them vulnerable to attack. A lot more depends on water than you might think. These interdependencies can cascade and amplify harms quite quickly. No water, no hospital, no kidding. Within 2 to 4 hours, lack of water will restrict access to patient care for time-sensitive conditions. The life and death human costs in just 48 hours could be significant to our nation and its citizens. We have experience with natural disasters and have crisis management tools, but where natural disasters are sporadic, these disasters are unnatural, man-made, concurrent, and quickly scalable to exhaust shared resources, playbooks, and any assumption of mutual aid. Surely the military or government will handle this for us, right? No. The military's cyber doctrine is focused on protecting its own operations, not civilian infrastructure. And the federal government has not stepped up with programs to reduce these risks. But there are things we can do to weather the incoming storm. And Undestructible 27 is here to help. We are a nonprofit bringing decades of expertise to help communities across the country train to take a punch for free. Our initiative includes funding to bring expertise and resources to innovate narrowly and replicate widely, starting with 12 hospital-supported communities using familiar, effective engineering mitigations. From conducting resilience reviews to installing engineering-first solutions for water utilities, we want to work with you to protect your loved ones and community, then scale these solutions to all of the 6,000 hospital communities and beyond. There's still time to protect your community and maybe even your country. Nominate your community today. Contact us at undestructible27.org.
All right, sorry for 3 minutes of that, but I think as long as we have a common denominator as we approach these 2 days of 3 tracks of incredible content, maybe we can actually surface and shatter some assumptions, get some common cause, common purpose, and wrestle with what's really going to happen when from whom. So one of the hazards we work with these towns on is called the water hammer. It's a property of physics. I had to learn a lot about fluid dynamics. There's going to be several talks which will explain what these are. Sorry for the AI slop. There's a couple pieces. The consequences of force equals mass times acceleration is a water hammer, which is trivial to cause by humans, by accident, by nature, and much more likely to happen in cold water and cold weather in the winter. More burst water mains happen in the winter than any other time. Is that with the access that our adversaries enjoy, it's possible to cause these, and the consequences become a burst water main, something like this 30-foot geyser into the air, maybe on Main Street, but sometimes it's in a field, or sometimes it's by a river, you don't even know where it is. So when there's a loss of water pressure, everyone downstream's in a bad way, a very bad way. And we hinted there's 151,000 water facilities, a third service homes, but only 420 are in the voluntary ISAC. 420, do the math on that. So let's visualize that. There's the haves up top. You're going to hear from one of our top funded, most capable defenders of water in the country from Loudon Water tomorrow, actually later today, I think. But most of us are in that have-nots, the target-rich cyber poor. So let's look at the 151,000. A third of them support your homes and your families. Picture your family. But 6,000 of them support one of the nation's hospital. And the highest consequence failure is a loss of water pressure to the hospital. It's 2 to 4 hours for HVAC, for a bunch of surgery, scrubbing, bunches of stuff. So I'm going to assert some provocative things you won't agree with. And somebody, former Pacific Command leader for the Navy, is going to be on a panel later today with us. When might this Taiwan conflict happen? And it's fluid, but let's say if we're going to have targets in the crosshairs for civilian infrastructure across the haves and through the have-nots, I'm going to float some things. I already told you that yellow period, as Xi Jinping said, be ready as early as 2027. But nobody felt he was going to be that ready that soon. In fact, watching Putin struggle in Ukraine humbled him a bit. Whatever year he goes, there's a fantastic New York Times piece that revealed this in plain speak. There's 2 times during a calendar year where it's less treacherous to cross the Taiwan Straits with your boats. 2 times, a 5-week period in mid-March and a 3-week period in September. So dollars to donuts, the most favorable conditions for the physical aspects of this campaign are in mid-March or September. There were periods of fluctuation after the bombing of the Iranian nuclear facilities where that was not in their playbook, which surprised them and said, maybe let's wait till the next admin. I'm not making a political point here. I'm just making a tactical point here. And then there were other periods after Venezuela and Greenland and Cuba discussions and spheres becoming maybe more tolerant, that they said, oh, maybe this is the most tolerant admin we're ever going to get. Permissive admin we're ever going to get. And it still remains fluid, but dollars to donuts, the current prevailing theory is if it's going to happen, it's likely March of 2028 or March of 2029, which undermines the name of our cool project, Undestructible 27. So the good news is you have maybe a little bit more time, but not nearly enough. And we can debate this, and people do debate this. And this is, I'm happy to debate this because at least we're engaged. But the bottom line is we are prone, we are prey, and we have motivated predators. But we still have time to do some things. Now, the disruptions to Undestructible very quickly. We have lines like the Undestructible project for the Taiwan conflict, but we also have a war with Iran, tigers and bears. And unfortunately, we also have Silicon Valley throwing new curveballs at us in the name of innovation and growing the economy. Yes. And yes, it's spectacular marketing FUD, but I'm going to give a slightly different perspective because Bryson and I have common cause, common purpose. We don't always agree on everything. So apologies for your second piece of AI slop, but the apocalypse now, vuln-apocalypse now, it's not about mythos. It's not about marketing. It's not about which model is better. All the models are getting better and better. Even the older models are better than we admitted. It was an inflection point in a consciousness that essentially offense is really, really easy and then scalable, and defense is really, really hard. Casey John Ellis used a line that attacks scale at compute power and defense scales at the speed of committees. So we're in bad way. So let's take this apocalypse now briefly as a provocation. Off the side of this slide, all systems have flaws. The bugs were there from the time it was written. They're just there. You get a slightly elevated risk when someone finds one, and we make a CVE as long as CVE remains solvent. So it takes a level of time, effort, friction to do that. And for quite some time, LLMs have driven that cost to nearly zero. So we're finding more. We can't even keep up with naming them. The scarier part of Mythos was that the additional exotic, rarer skill to weaponize one became much, much easier. In a given calendar year, about 3% of CVEs ever get attacked and exploited, 3%. But now we're finding more in the denominator, and the percentage of weaponization is going up. So these two have been hypercharged by the new models. There's a third step, which is where Glasswing came in, which is, you know what? The AI is not as good at automatically creating a patch for you in the flaw that was always there to ratchet down the heat. So humans have made a 100-day head start. So you should get access to a preview copy. You should do this, et cetera, et cetera. This is where the focus of Glasswing is, and I have some concerns. If you're in OT or ICS, or if you're in a hospital, you can't just patch. No one's actually safe until that patch is applied everywhere that's vulnerable, whether it's the programmable logic controllers, whether it's a medical device, whether it's the Linux kernel. The availability of a patch is necessary but insufficient until we deploy it everywhere. Unfortunately, the mean time to exploitation is now measured in minutes or hours, but the mean time to remediation is measured in years. You might get one annual change management window. It's not patch faster. It's not use AI to fight AI. These people are using 20-year-old unsupported end-of-life equipment. So if that's the 4 steps of the life chain, not the kill chain, to preserve life and function, guess what? Unfortunately, the initial Glasswing doesn't speak much to how do we operationalize and accelerate the patching process. But worse, there was not a single OT vendor in the batch, not one. Rockwell, Honeywell, Schneider Electric, Siemens, none of them. And for most of that 100-day preview, still none. They just last week announced they've opened it up to 150 new people, including some OT. The ones I know are in a waiting room. So there is no IT without OT, no data centers, no cooling, no power, no water, no nothing. So this is a dangerous oversight that mirrors our bias at the RSA conferences. But it's worse than that because we were focused on, if you look at who got invited, it's the enterprise elite for the top 5%. What about the have-nots? So if they've tried to reduce the increased danger to a yellow, what about the increased danger to OT, especially down market? And that's where this room comes in. And that's why we focused our talk selection and our content and our pragmatism on how do we actually buy down risk for the target-rich cyber-poor OT players. And if you put this in context, not only is the Mythos hype machine and the buy more tokens and the best solution for AI risk is more AI risk, all those things might be true. But every script kiddie, the script kiddies that are currently spanking us, the teenagers from Scattered Spider that are successfully beating us every day, twice on Tuesdays, are getting stronger every day. And that limited bench of hackers from Iran that was small enough for me to sleep a little better at night is stronger every day. So with more players in the field, they're getting better and we're not yet. Some hope. Congress just asked Ginger and I and some others to say, how do we look at practical ways to buy down risk for our nation's water facilities? We just had a hearing, 4 weeks ago? I think tomorrow's 4 weeks ago. We had props like that program, a logic controller, which is infuriating to me, self-inflicted risk. But also we have to take ourselves less seriously and have some fun. So one of my missions to you is, if you're a speaker, please do one of these or one of these at some point during your talk, because the Beer ISAC makes sure that as we try to save the world here and fight for our militaries, we're at least having some fun. So can you give me a little? But seriously, as we round the corner here to introduce our keynote, we try to take as a matter of pride to make a conference with such incredible content that you have an incredibly difficult decision of which talk to go to. Yes, it's 3 tracks. We're going to record everything. We want vibrant conversation. We gave a lot of urgency and specific instruction to conference attendees that we don't want to admire the problem or talk about what we can do in 10 years, what we should have done 10 years ago. We want practical, applicable things that can be done now. And I'm going to have a hard time picking. I hope you have a hard time picking. That's going to be track 1. This is going to be track 2. I can't wait to see some of these talks. I want you to challenge them. I want you to ask them. If you don't hear something actionable, ask about it. Almost done here. All right. There is a no water, no kid, no water, no hospitals, no kidding. I want to do a quick show of hands because I'm going to give prizes out for the next couple of days. A point and a question. Many of the threats come from cyber, but many of the solutions come from engineering. We don't have the time, the budget to do shields up or catchy slogans. What we're going to do is use Idaho National Labs cyber-informed engineering. We're going to say, yes, they can compromise the water plant, but no, they cannot burst the water main. And we have cheap, affordable, familiar engineering mitigations that these target-rich cyber-poor do know. And as we meet them on the ground, it's going to look a lot more like this than about cyber. There are still other cyber solutions we want to crawl, walk, run eventually. But here is a water treatment kit in case you have a loss of water for your home and your family. I have different gifts at different times. Please raise your hand if your life depends upon drinking water. Okay. Put your hand down. Keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. Put your hand down if you have a well. So you have an alternative personal supply. So keep your hand up if you don't have a well. Hands up, hands up. Who has a week-long supply of water if you lost water? Keep your hand up if you have more than a week. 3 weeks. Anybody have 3 weeks? Okay. All right, so this little water treatment kit can handle a couple weeks worth of water for your family. Who has kids? Who still doesn't have a water solution has kids? All right, keep your hands up. All right. All right, you're gonna get this one. We'll talk about personal water resilience.
Let's show them the analog side. I mean, the back doesn't look as.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
This is what will be doing the saving.
All right. So we take this very seriously. You can go 3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, 30 days without food. But a hospital that cares for you and your family can't go 2 to 4 hours. So I take this seriously. We have adversaries who want to come after us. Maybe it's not the Chinese. Maybe you disbelieve that. Maybe it's not Iranian activists. Maybe it's not accidents from a script kiddie. I'm kind of tired of talking about who's after us, why they're after us, when they're going to hit us. I want to know what we're going to do. Thank you for coming for the next 2 days to help us decide what we're going to do instead of letting our adversaries set the tone. So with that, let's introduce our keynote. Acting Director of CISA, Nick Anderson.